Good afternoon, Guelph. My name is Mark Peralvis, and that rhymes with for all of us, and I'm the People's Party candidate for the Guelph riding for the October 21st federal election. I hope you vote for me. Today, I attended a debate. The debate was at College Heights, and the questions were fantastic. The first question was on free speech, and, well, I found it interesting the other candidates' answers, and the kids came up to me afterwards and said that I was the only candidate to actually speak to the question they asked for that specific question, which I found interesting. What do you think? Here's a listen. The whole debate is about 45 minutes. I didn't get the whole thing. My video recorder was acting up, which is why I've got audio only. And then my audio recorder was giving me some issues until I got it set up. It was at the end of Lloyd's, or midway between Lloyd's first opening minute and a half, 2 minutes. So we'll listen to the end of that and we'll listen to the rest of the debate. And I hope this is helpful to you. So thank you very much for watching. Voting day is October 21st. And well, here we go.
I came out to Guelph 27 years ago to be managing director of one of my suppliers. And then I became the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And in that role, I sat on the board advisory board here at College Heights to say it's really important that you know who's asking for your help. And the employers in our area are looking for people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and pitch in. So that's what now in my current role I'm looking at. I have sat on the Industry Committee for Canada. I've sat on the Agriculture Committee looking at ag equipment manufacturing and food processing. I chaired the Innovation and Digital Caucus. And really, all of my work has been around how do we create the opportunities for young people to enter into careers that can be as exciting as the career that I had. So you'll hear a lot of opinions this afternoon, but really, it's about you. It's about what can we do to help you find your path forward, remove obstacles, provide the supports you need, whether it's tuition support, whether it's support in getting into your first home. Canada doesn't succeed unless you succeed. So we're here to help you with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Lloyd. Now is going to begin the time where there's going to be questions from you, the students. So there's a microphone up here. So if any of you have a question for the candidates, please kind of come up to this microphone and you can make a bit of a line. Ask your question. Aisha's going to answer first. Each candidate will get 1 minute to answer each of the questions. So, Zoli, you can go ahead first if you would like. You can ask your question to him, but all the candidates will get it. So, just a minute. If your question is to a specific candidate about a topic, the other candidates will get a chance to also respond about that topic, just so that it's equal playing field for everyone.
So, will we stay in the order that is current, or will I answer and then?
No, the order is going to be first Aisha, then we'll go down and back. For the next question, I'll start with Juanita down and back.
I just want to make sure they understand.
Yeah, so Aisha's going to answer this first, but you can ask it to Mark. Go ahead.
Whoa. So I feel like I might be a little bit quiet here.
It's all good.
I don't know about you. Fine. We're getting somewhere here. Okay. For everyone, I guess now. Will you be supporting free speech in Canada?
So the question, so go ahead, Aisha.
Will you be supporting?
It's a good question. Do we support free speech? Yes. However, there are issues that can arise when that speech is directed and is hurtful. And I think we all need to be considerate and mindful about that. If there was something more that you were specifically looking for, I'm not sure, but this is my response. That yes, we believe in free speech, however, we need to be considerate of other people around us, and we need to ensure that our speech isn't directed to hurt anybody. Okay?
like Russian roulette with my ears.
So free speech is an important thing. Hate speech is not free speech. I believe that people have an idea about free speech that they can say anything, anywhere to anyone, and that is not true. And I do not support that kind of free speech. I find it interesting that people who demand free speech want to cut off certain kinds of speech, like using proper pronouns and I don't even know where to start. But you don't always get a platform to speak your speech, and you shouldn't. There are places and times for words, and I'm sorry I'm fumbling, but it's frustrating.
Thank you. Steve?
Absolutely. Our ability to speak out on important issues is key to us having a free and democratic society, to educate each other and to listen to each other, practicing forms of respect so that we can do better by each other, whether that be with our First Nations and Indigenous people or just in our own homes. But we need to be always careful that we aren't hateful and that we're not engendering hate in our communities. So we need to guard on that. And I want to respond to Brother Case also. 30 seconds, wow. I've been involved in the Green Party for many, many years. And that process of gathering as a community to develop policy, it takes a lot of organizing. I appreciate Brother Case's work as an independent. That's important work too. But when an organization makes a decision to not include a group that hasn't developed their policy to a certain level, I can respect that.
Well, thanks, Steve. For a guy who was part of the fair vote in Guelph, advocating inclusiveness and equality and participatory representation, for you to start talking about free speech at the exclusion of other candidates, that's hypocritical, Steve. What do you mean my platform? My platform is pretty clear. No one ever gets to hear it because you will not stand up for my right to be heard at an all candidates meeting. That's the problem, Steve. It's not that my platform isn't developed. You just are a hypocrite and not willing to stand up for the rights of other candidates to be heard on a proper all candidate stage.
All right, Lloyd? And then...
Okay, that's a very simple question, and you can see from the range of answers that there's a lot of implications to freedom of speech. When we look at what is appropriate speech versus what's hateful speech and what's meant to put other races down or other types of people down, I think speech and the impact it has on the people around us is something that's really worth us talking about. When we look at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and how each person has the right to speech and to collect and to gather in their own way, to worship or not worship in their own way, we need to look at policies like our anti-racism strategy, policies like what is online, what's allowed online, so that people aren't threatened by the speech that's directed at them, but able to speak their mind and have diverse opinions. Really, diversity is a fact, but inclusion is a choice, and your speech either includes or excludes, and that's really where you cross the line.
All right, thank you, Lloyd. Before we get to Mark, I think that Steve wanted to head up his black sheet there for rebuttal, so Steve, if you'd like to go ahead. There we go. Okay, this is working. Brother Case, I really
I value your presence and your participation. I am hurt by you calling me a hypocrite. I have worked with organizations, Fair Vote Canada and Democracy Guelph, and this whole process of working with the community to develop institutions over time, it requires discipline. It requires certain building of skills, and I appreciate that you build skills, and I appreciate that other parties build skills. But it's very hard for me to have you say that I'm a hypocrite when I've been actively working to include everybody's voice. And my sense is, if you were to be involved in other organizations, you know, that's how we actually move things along in our society, is by gathering together with other thoughtful people rather than chartering out by our lone self. And you know, I admire your lone vision too. So thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Steve. So before we get to Mark, thank you, Mark, for your patience. I think Cornelius wanted to do a rebuttal to that. And then we'll get to you, Mark. Thank you.
So when I call you a hypocrite, Steve, is because all the things that you have stood for in the past, like inclusiveness and the fair vote, you are not standing up for my right to be heard on the stage in an equal manner with everyone else on the stage. You didn't go up and say, I protest. This man is a candidate just like the rest of us. He did all the hard work to become a candidate just like us, but I am not standing up for his right to be heard and let his opinions be stated. That's where the hypocrisy comes in, Steve. What happened to all your work when you worked for Fair Votes Canada? Have you forgotten your fundamental principles? Well, then why don't you stand up and support me when I'm being kicked off the stage at an all candidates meeting? And will you stand up for my rights and the other candidates' rights who have been excluded this Wednesday when the Chamber of Commerce holds their all candidates meeting? Will you stand up for my right then, Steve? Please tell us.
Thank you for your time. So now, Mark, for all of us, thank you for waiting. Mark, if you could respond to the question, please.
Thank you. Sorry this took so long to get to. I think it's really concerning, all the soft language on defending freedom of speech, except when you're being mean, except when who exactly defines hate speech, and that's the crux of the issue. Everybody had their, you know, when people don't like what you say or somebody feels unsafe by what you say, et cetera, and nobody had a clear definition of what hate speech is. So unfortunately, when you start getting hate speech into the conversation, the person who defines it is the person you least want to define it. So a People's Party government will restrict the definition of hate speech in the criminal code to expression which explicitly advocates the use of force against identifiable groups or persons based on protected criteria such as religion, race, sex, or sexual orientation. That means if you're actually advocating violence against somebody, saying you should go hurt this person, that's hate speech. Everything else is fair game. We'll repeal any existing legislation or regulation curtailing free speech on the internet and prevent the reinstatement of Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act. It's dangerous because it takes up police time policing speech on the internet. We'll repeal C-16, which is the compelled speech, and M-103. Thank you. And I've got lots more to say on this topic. Cheers. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mark. The next student wants to ask a question. We're going to start with Juanita, and I'm going to ask the candidates to respond to the student's question, and not necessarily to each other. So the topics that the students are bringing up, I would like you all to address that specific topic, please. So go ahead, please, Connor.
Okay. How would each of your parties benefit students who are suffering from IEPs going into the workforce, such as myself?
So Juanita, if you would like to, so IEPs are individual education plans where students can get accommodations for their learning, just in case the candidates aren't aware of that. So Juanita, if you want to go ahead, please.
So one of the reasons we've been fighting the provincial government is because of some of the cuts that they've made to things like educational assistance and reducing or increasing class sizes, so each student isn't getting the proper help and education that they need. I think that that the provincial government right now is doing a huge disservice to students, to teachers, to parents, to all of us. And I support free public education from daycare to post-secondary. And it's important to us to make sure that everyone gets all the help they need, whether it's with people, with resources, and so on. So.
Thank you. Steve?
I was really involved with a family who came to Canada from Syria, and one of the sons in the family had a learning disability, but that wasn't recognized. We worked to get a educational assessment done to make sure that that person could get the additional services they needed. At my work, we make a point of engaging with different people with different challenges and making sure that there's opportunities for people to participate in ways to make money and be part of our economy. It's so important that our government steps up to make sure that we have good training opportunities and supports for different people of different abilities. Thank you so much for asking the question. We can do much more.
Okay, Brother Case, if you would like to answer that question, please.
Does this mic work? Hello? Yes. Look, I'm an old socialist from way back, and of course, my belief is that social services should be at the top of the pile for things that the government should invest in. So the individual education plans program, of course, we should increase the assistance to those students that need that help. Where would that money come from as a good socialist? Well, for one thing, we would tax the super rich a lot more than what is currently going on. Or how about the military budget? Let's take out $5 billion a year and help pay for social services. And then, of course, there is the offshore tax accounts, protected by the Liberal and the Conservative parties, not willing to touch billions of offshore tax havens. Let's go after that money and put that into social services like the individual educations plan.
All right, thank you. And Lloyd?
Thank you. And a great question. Accessibility comes in many, many different shapes and sizes. When we look at what prevents Canadians from reaching their potential, can be physical accessibility issues, could be other accessibility issues, as you're saying, in terms of the IEPs that might be needed to be put in place. And at the end of the last Parliament, we passed a new piece of legislation that was the Accessible Canada Act. It was the most wide-reaching accessibility legislation in over 30 years. And what it's resulted in is a fund that is the Enabling Accessibility Fund. It's $40 million per year, or $10,000 for each employer that would need to provide additional support for somebody coming into the workplace. And that could be in form of a counselor, it could be in the form of learning aids, but each small business would be able to apply for $10,000 assistance in order to help you bridge into employment. And that's something that we would be supporting going forward.
Okay, thank you, Lloyd. Mark?
Hello. Hello? Good. So I used to work with kids with IEPs. That was actually my job. I would go into classroom and help them out, et cetera, et cetera. And when they were done high school, oftentimes what we would do is try and match them with a job that needed the skills that they had, and not trying to match them to jobs with skills that they needed to develop, right? So that's part of it. And what that means and what that looks like is, if you look back through the 90s when Alberta was booming, you could get a job in Alberta. There were a lot of people in high school who were leaving high school in grade 11 to work in the oil rigs and work in the oil fields, etc. My party will be using the Constitution to impose pipelines in 9210 to make sure we can, instead of using Saudi oil out east, we can use Canadian oil. Why do we spend $300 million on Saudi oil every month when Canadian oil is good? And sometimes we need people who can't program a computer but can do the work, the hard work. Sometimes we need, and that's what we need. So a People's Party government will increase jobs for lots of populations.
All right, thank you, Mark. Aisha?
So the Ministry of Education has a responsibility to ensure that all children are supported so that they can reach their maximum potential. So an IEP that exists in the school system should also be allowed to, near the end of schooling, I think there should be an opportunity for connections in the community and ensure that there's supports out in the community to help prepare you for the workforce. And even post-secondary education to ensure that there's programs available that you're interested in, but most importantly, I think there needs to be more supports available in the community.
Okay, thank you very much. So next student, please, question.
Hi, I got a question. How would you say you would protect trade jobs and other jobs like mining and oil stuff, and that stuff is going out and dying down in a part of our economy? How would you say would help protect that in Guelph and other places?
Okay, so thanks for the question. We're going to start with Steve Dick from the Green Party. If you want to just, got the wired mic there. Okay, go ahead.
Hello. Check. Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's really important right now. Our economy is in a huge transition. It used to be that jobs in the oil industry were well-paying jobs. That's no longer the case. What the future cost of oil is going to be about $9 a barrel. If you can make oil at $9 a barrel, you're going to be able to compete with renewable energy. So we need to think about the right jobs for people. Jobs that are actually going to make our society way less dependent on energy coming into our society, where we can be way more self-sufficient. And they're great jobs. They're right here in our own community. And we can also address climate change at the same time. These are skilled trades jobs. These are jobs that are high-paying jobs and great jobs for right here in our own community. Thanks for the question.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Cornelius, if you could answer the question, please.
Hello? So, Canada spends approximately $1.3 billion in oil subsidies to the rich oil companies. So let's stop doing that and take that $1.3 billion and invest in infrastructure such as expanded trade schools where you are taught skills other than working for the oil company, taught skills in a transitional program whereby your skills will go a long way towards a renewable, sustainable economy.
Thanks.
Okay, Lloyd?
It's a real concern when we're transitioning from oil and coal into clean energy and the clean economy. And what happens to the jobs? In Alberta, there's 67,000 direct jobs in the oil industry that are good paying jobs that have supported families for years. But we know that the future is into clean technology. And the clean technology jobs that we're creating will be 160,000 jobs that will offset the 67,000 that will be lost. But you need time and money to do that. So the pipeline that we've purchased will be providing $500 million a year to help transition into the new economy. As we move away from coal, it will be the same, so that the families that are being supported by those jobs will have time to react and will provide the training money in order for them to get into the new jobs. Great question.
Merci.
All right, thank you, Lloyd. Mark?
Hello?
Blue mic?
Check. Oh, there we go. So to address To address the specific oil and gas aspect, a People's Party government would repeal C-48, which is the tanker ban, and C-69, which is the pipeline legal ban, that are clogging up the ability to actually get these pipelines approved and built. The $4 billion pipeline that was purchased by the Liberals needs almost an entire term to start paying itself back when we can get shovels in the ground for twinning it, etc. And on internal trade, we will be having standardized standards across the country rather than having individual standards for each province. So if you are certified in Alberta, you'll be certified in Ontario, certified in BC, certified in Ontario, right? That'll matter with diamond drilling, uranium drilling, and other resource drilling, etc. We've still got some time. I think that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aisha?
We're committed to creating good jobs in all communities. Workers are our most important friends in this transition process, and we'll be creating 300,000 clean, good, new technology jobs. Access to training and education for low carbon future is very important. And building more zero emission vehicles here at home, making sure that we're helping with the transition process. And we'll be boosting clean tech research and manufacturing with Buy Canadian procurement. And we'll be helping companies reduce emissions and keep jobs here in Canada. And last, create good, family-sustaining jobs, building infrastructure in all regions of the country, while making sure communities are at the decision-making table and local businesses are involved.
All right, thank you. Juanita?
So the Communist Party would close the tar sands and associated pipelines, but invest in value-added manufacturing and secondary industry, and develop solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, and other renewables. We also plan to build 1 million units of social housing, retrofit and upgrade public infrastructure, some legislation including plant closure and bankruptcy protection for workers, and a bunch of other policies that are in the People's Agenda at votecommunist.com or at the back table there. Thanks.
Thank you all for answering my questions.
Okay, so I think we have time for one more question, which we'll start. Brother Case, you'll answer first, so go ahead with your question.
Testing. Just a quick question. This might be a dumb question, but healthcare. What's all your party's plan about that? Like, what's the plan for healthcare, basically?
Okay, great question, and we're going to start with Brother Case.
So, hello. So healthcare is an important issue for all of us. The problem with the Canadian healthcare system, as good as it may be in some places, there just isn't enough funding for things like, say, dental care for everyone, or prosthetics, or say generic drugs. All that isn't being supplied. The lineups at the hospital can be reduced if we invest in more, say, walking clinics, more MRI machines. Those are the things that we need to expand upon. We've built the foundation, now let's build a house when it comes to healthcare services in Canada.
All right, thank you. Lloyd?
Thank you. I've got to say, these are great questions. Healthcare is something that is top of mind for so many Canadians, whether they're trying to access drugs and medications that are being prescribed for them and can't afford them. We're working on the National Pharmacare program, and we're doing that through the Canada Drug Agency. Because drug services are delivered provincially, we need to look at how do we create a plan for Canada that crosses all provinces and territories. I was really excited to see in our platform that mental health will be included in the Canada Health Act for the first time. And mental health and addictions are facing this community as one of the most serious problems that we have. We're also going to be providing funding for increased availability for mental health workers for professionals to help walk people through mental health challenges, and to make sure that every Canadian has access to a physician. I was on the physician recruitment team for Guelph a few years back. We got 8 new doctors, but we still have problems getting the right psychiatrists and psychologists to help. So definitely the federal government is stepping in on that.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. Mark?
Thank you. Blue mic. Okay. Thank you. These really are excellent questions. Honestly, there have been other debates and the questions weren't nearly as good. So under the Constitution, healthcare is an exclusive provincial jurisdiction. So that means the province deals with it. The current system involves the provinces satisfying a series of conditions set in the Canada Health Act in exchange for transfer payments. So they say, we did these 9 things, give us our money, please, right? But the money doesn't directly go into funding healthcare, it just goes into the big budget, and then the province doles it out. So instead of having that whole exchange where the provinces say, hey, we did those things, give us the money, my government will give the provinces $40 billion and the GST and the power to tax. That means they can increase the cost of the GST, HST now, or decrease the cost of the HST. And that depends on what you guys want. You're the constituents. So that gives you guys accountability. That gives you guys the ability to say to your provincial government, we know it's not the feds. We want X, Y, Z, and if you don't do it, the next one will, because we'll put them in. So accountability and the same amount of money that's being transferred now with no conditions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Aisha?
I'm a registered nurse, and I know how people are suffering with all the cuts in healthcare. When I first started, we never had hallway nursing, and now it's become the norm. And it's tragic because people cannot seem to get the care that they need when they need it by the right healthcare professional. I'm really excited that the NDP is introducing pharmacare that's going to be initiated in 2020. And not only that, we're also going to be introducing dental care for families that make $70,000 or less. There are so many people out there that don't have extended health coverage, and so unfortunately people are unable to afford their medications. We're also going to include mental health and addiction services and support, vision, hearing, and eventually long-term care beds as well. So.
All right, thank you. Juanita, if you would like to answer, please.
So, we would.
Okay. We would expand Medicare to include pharmacare, dental and vision care, long-term care, and mental health care, enforce the Canada Health Act and stop privatization. We would be nationalizing pharmaceuticals to take the profit out of drugs so we can't afford to actually cover it for everyone. We would help pay for things through a 75 cut in the military and doubling of corporate taxes. And the other thing we're looking at is a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay, which means people have time and energy to take better care of themselves. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Steve, Dick?
The Greens have been long advocates for health or illness prevention. What this means is that we invest in things like dental care. And we've actually got a plan in place that's been audited by the Parliamentary Budget Office so that we can actually pay for dental care for everyone and pharmacare for everyone. It's so important that we deal with our long-term care challenges that our hospitals are facing. That's why we've got hallway medicine, is because we have people in long-term care in our hospitals. We need to treat mental health issues as a healthcare issue. If we don't respond to people's requests for services when they're asking for help, they find other solutions. They start self-medicating and doing other drastic things. So we really need to respond to people's requests for mental health services much quicker than we are.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to, in a moment, just start the closing statements, and it's going to start down at the far end with Lloyd Longfield and come back through this way. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their closing statements. So we'll just start now there at the end, please.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the discussion so far. It's too bad we're at the end of it already. but it's so good to see the cross-section of Guelph that's here today to look at what matters to your future. You know, I'm really proud of the 4 years of work that I was able to accomplish with my team when we looked at creating jobs here. My biggest file was mental health. And the biggest file going forward for our community that I see is mental health. The second biggest file is housing. How do we look after people socially? How do we provide a society where people have the support they need to succeed? And that's really the question that we have in front of us. How do we do it in an environmentally sensitive way? How do we make sure that what we're doing is going to help us on the road ahead to battling the climate crisis that we're in? What type of jobs is that going to provide? When we talk about retrofitting buildings, guess who's doing the retrofitting? It's the people that are in this room. We're looking at creating new energy sources. Who's going to be on the floor making those energy sources happen? It's you guys. So how do we provide the tools that you're going to need to succeed on the road ahead? When we look at the next generation of workers and the retirement wave that's hitting us, we need you and we need you now. So the fact that you're asking us, the type of questions that you're asking us, is really giving me a lot of hope. But we need a lot of hard work as well. So between hope and hard work, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly Guelph can respond to the climate crisis, how fast Guelph can respond to the shortage of labor that we have in the country, and how fast we can respond to the social needs of our community to make sure that nobody is left behind. So thank you for having us here today. I really got a lot out of your questions. If you need more answers in more detail, you can check out openparliament.ca, look me up, and you'll see anything I've ever said about jobs.
All right, thank you very much, Lloyd. Brother Case, if you would like to make your 2-minute closing statement, please.
Hello? Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm running as an independent, and there is a important component to running as an independent in Canada. That's what democracy is all about. Any individual, including myself, including you folks, can get up, become a candidate, and run in an election. You don't have to join a political party to do so. If what I hear from the Green Party candidate that is somehow unimportant, then I think he should review what parliamentary democracy and democracy in principle is all about. That is, independents like myself have an alternative voice to offer the public. And that is one reason why I'm up here. The other issue is we should all be listened to. That is what I've heard, and let's have that happen. Let's have an all candidates meeting where all the candidates have an opportunity to speak their minds and have the public decide who is the best candidate to represent them in this riding.
All right, thank you. Steve?
I know that so many of you share my concern that we need to take immediate action to address climate change. We simply haven't done enough to preserve the earth for our future. Worse, we've abused the earth to the point that we're not sure that you'll be able to enjoy nature as we have. Our economy has left so many of us behind. Poverty is still a reality for many in our society, and it's unacceptable. As we address the climate crisis, we need to transition to a low-carbon economy in a way that ensures that we leave no one behind. We have a plan that's costed out, and we know that we can afford pharmacare, dental care, and begin the negotiations with our provinces to provide a guaranteed livable income. Our path to government is to be a fair one, and what we've done so far hasn't been fair. But some of us are actively working to address climate change. Greta Thunberg and the other climate strikers in the world are showing us adults that young people can start a global movement. The earth is your inheritance. Fight for her. If you're not already, get involved politically. We need to work together with all parties, with all our talents to bring forward a clean and livable future. But if we don't put the planet first and care for her, really, how can we expect to have a good life going forward? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Juanita?
So we are all facing a number of challenges going forward, and I truly believe that the Communist Party's platform would help improve living standards, would help bring peace, and help fight climate change. I'm going to take a bit of time, though, to talk more about free speech. And as someone said up here, it depends on who defines it. One of the strongest forms of free speech that I believe in is protest. I find it frustrating that I was not also invited to a number of debates. I accepted that. I've protested in the past. Some of them I'm gonna fight, some of them I'm not in these times, but it really bothers me with the growth of, with the growth of far-right populist and fascist movements. I think it's really disturbing that a party that split from another party almost in half suddenly has a spot at the debate table and is talking about not having free speech. I think if we're going to allow everyone everywhere, I don't know how we're going to do that, but if that's the thing, then it would be helpful if people didn't call police on protesters who just want to have their free speech. Thanks.
Thank you, Aisha.
I have worked as a registered mental health nurse for six years now. And out of the 6 years, 3 years were spent in the emergency mental health unit. It was alarming to see more and more kids and adolescents come in distress. There's been a rise of self-harm behaviors, anxiety, depression, and very serious suicide attempts. It was clear to me in that working environment that between the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care and the Ministry of Education, we were failing our children. They were falling through the cracks. Even though they didn't meet criteria for a hospital admission, trying to get them community resources in a timely fashion was close to impossible. The wait list to see a psychiatrist would be anywhere between 8 to 9 months. And to get them hooked up with CMHA, it could take anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks, all depending on the urgency. It is for these very same reasons that I had put my name forward to run in the last municipal election as a school board trustee. And unfortunately, I wasn't successful. But I'm still motivated to try to make a difference. I'm really concerned about the cuts in healthcare, the cuts in education, the rise of cost of living, and how it's becoming increasingly difficult to afford housing and basic needs. So with the NDP, we're doing our very best to represent and give a voice for those people and to ensure that there are supports there, such as affordable housing, pharmacare, and a bold action plan to address our climate crisis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mark, you want to go ahead with your closing statement?
Here we go. Okay, so it's interesting to me how much is focused on healthcare and other provincial jurisdiction conversations. The goal of the federal government isn't to make sure that you live an actualized life. The purpose of a federal government is not to make sure that you get the right health care you get, or any of the other services that are delivered by the province. The fundamental goal of the federal government is to manage our infrastructure properly, to give the municipalities and provinces the numbers they need to plan for the population that's going to be here. And that's not happening currently. The Liberals and the Conservatives, the Liberals are talking about increasing immigration, and as I've it's a little creepy, right? As I've explained already, that we're not keeping up. You guys are entering an economy where people can't afford housing already. It's not getting better. And increasing the number of people on that infrastructure is not going to solve that problem. So the federal government's job is to make sure the provinces are accountable for the services they are supposed to deliver. Part of the way we're going to do that is to make sure the provinces have the money they need to deliver the services, and then the ability to be held accountable by you, the taxpayer. We're going to make sure that you can move your skills across the country. Make sure if you get certified as a nurse in Ontario, you can work as a nurse in Alberta or British Columbia or Halifax, Nova Scotia, anywhere across Canada. The government's job is not to make sure you succeed. It is your job to make sure you succeed. It is the federal government's job to set the table and the best way to make sure that every single one of you has the opportunities when you get out there to take them and to succeed with them. I can't, and the federal government can't possibly do everything for every citizen of Ontario, and as well do everything for every citizen of British Columbia and Alberta and all of the rest of the provinces, because that's not their job. Their job is to make sure the provinces can deliver the services properly and you can succeed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So that concludes our debate. I have a few thank yous. I want to thank Ms. Parks, our timekeeper, and for helping out. I also would like to thank Mr. Curley's theater tech class, who set things up and is doing the sound and lights. Gabby in particular, who's kind of our sound guru here, grade 9 student.
So grade 9 student, give him a break. It's all good. We could hear it okay in the gym. It's just my technology's shortcomings that make it that boomy, etc. So I apologize for the sound at the end there. It was a little hard to listen to while I was talking at the last bit there. But anyway, I hope you got the picture. Thanks for watching, everybody. Voting day is October 21st. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.